good to talk for a few minutes?
So you can chat.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There we go. Just had to make sure while he's setting everything up that we weren't like talking over the intro video. Hello everyone, welcome to our Wednesday night beer tasting number 55. And we are going through the Annex refreshment referendum with Rupert Manguel of Annex Brewing. Hello Rupert, how are you?
How's it going, guys? Good? I'm
Good.
fantastic.
So we are gonna get everybody started here in the right way. We're gonna get everyone started on the King's English Black Tea Lemon Pale Ale, which is the newest thing we have tonight. Now, as I understand it, these have been a pretty big hit for you over at Annex. How did sales go on the refreshment referendums?
So yeah, these have been fantastic for us. It's the first time that I've been a part of doing like a pre-sale for them. So we opened up pre-sales for them the week before we actually released it, and it was sold out by the time that we were
Oh, I think we lost Rupert there for a second. Are you back?
Oh.
Yep.
Hello?
Yeah, I got you. Not sure what happened there. Aaron ran out of the room, and just at that second, your video cut out. So I wasn't sure what had happened there. So no, I think we're all good. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I was just saying that it was the first time that I was part of a pre-sale, and we sold out by the time we were delivering them to accounts the next week. So it was very impressive.
So they're already sold out at the brewery. That's crazy.
You can still get them in the tap room.
But all the stuff you had for on-premise. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice. So as I understand it, you did this as a big online poll. You know, not every beer Annex is made in history, but a good sampling of them. And then people voted on kind of what their favorite beers that Annex has made over the last 4 years were, which is why it's a people's history. I'm curious, how would you have filled out your ballot? Or how did you fill out your ballot? Did you fill out a ballot for this?
I did, and I don't remember. So we started planning this whole project took a lot of planning. Even before the survey went up, I think that was in February. We were talking about this before Christmas, kind of thing. And the way that it kind of came about was that we wanted to. We always get asked for certain beers. You can't please everybody, so we said, well, let's hear it from the people. So we went on Untapped and got the highest rated beers that we've released and used those as the options. And then you could, of course, write in any beer that we've released that wasn't available to choose from. So
Was Original Echoes on the ballot? Because that was actually my favorite thing last year by a mile. I loved Original Echoes.
it was, and as I remember, it ranked very high.
But not high enough.
Not high enough, unfortunately. Yeah, and I mean there were a couple beers that obviously we knew Mackinaw was going to be part of this. I think that was the only one that we knew for sure.
Was just going to run the table.
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy the number. Like, I remember sitting in a meeting and looking at the numbers and the votes that came in, and Mackinaw was like high above all the others.
That's wild. Okay, so we've had King's English before, and I know we had Mackinaw before. I'm actually new to Terrestrial Magnetism, and I think I might be new to Rorschach, although I feel like I might have had it, or at least we sold it in the store, but I don't remember having it myself.
Okay.
Give us kind of the history of the King's English. It was here for all of summer last year, as I recall,
That's
or
right.
a good chunk of summer last year?
So every brewery sort of has their own vocabulary as to how they talk about their releases. Annex does small batch beers that are pretty much one and done. Then we do our seasonals that are around for 6 months at a time, be it spring, summer, or fall, winter. And then we've got our core lineup. So King's English was a 2020 spring, summer seasonal. So yeah, it was around for 6 months.
I mean, it did really well for us, at least. And again, I know your current seasonal is the Idle Hands, and then we had the Xenosign Black IPA right before it. So this is 3 seasonals ago, which is awesome that something that recent like scored so highly. I would have thought that something maybe way back in the catalog would pull a lot of votes, but apparently people were really all about the King's English.
Yeah. Sorry, we just showed the original can that it came in. It was surprising to me because it was King's English was coming to an end just as I was starting with Annex, and it didn't seem like it was all that popular. My background's working at the Ship and Anchor here in Calgary, and we brought King's English on, and I remember it not performing that well. But then it was one of those things that as soon as it was gone, people were up in arms and immediately wanted it back. So.
Maybe it didn't have that many fans, but the ones it had were absolute diehards.
Yeah, that's right.
Love it. So talk to me a little bit about the new art, because you did bring up, there was the original art for the can and then this.
Sorry.
So we've also gone through a bit of a rebrand for our small batch beers, which now this is considered. So you can kind of see a theme here. We just kind of wanted our small batch beers to look like they belong together. And then you can see at the top the cursive Annex Ale Project. Anytime you see that, that's going to indicate that it's a small batch beer.
As opposed to your kind of traditional
core
Annex
beers,
logo
yeah.
with the circle and yeah.
That's right.
Cool. Eric asks, Eric asked actually quite a while ago, do you actually use lilac in the brew, or is it just that's what comes out of the tea?
So, for this beer, we got a whole bunch of Earl Grey tea from Two Hills Tea manufacturer or supplier, I suppose they are, in BC. The tea imparts all these different flavors. The only thing that we've added other than the tea itself is a little bit of lactose. And that's to sort of just balance any bitterness that might be there. And then also some lemon concentrate. And we use the concentrate for a number of reasons. Consistency, year over year, if we were ever to bring it back, availability, logistics, and a big thing being if we were to use the actual fruit, there's a possibility of outside bacteria still being on that, and that could infect the brew.
Absolutely, it could. Yeah, totally get that.
Yeah. So the only time now that we use whole fruit would be in our fooders, which is on the other side of the brewery. So,
when do you add the tea? Is it after boil?
I believe this was, yes, after the boil, because it was cold steep. So, and it was cold steep to keep tannins low. Yeah, so that's
So it'll be probably even after primary fermentation, like in bright tank.
That's right. Yeah, no, not in the bright tank, but it was still in the fermenter. But yeah, yeah, and I mean we used a considerable amount of tea for this too. I think it was 6 kilos, which doesn't sound like a lot, but tea doesn't weigh very much. And
Oh, we lost you there for a sec, Rupert. We'll hopefully get you back here in a sec. Sorry, we lost you there for a sec. Are you back now?
Oh, sorry, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, so you were saying you added 6 kilos of... You said you had 6 kilos of tea, but that doesn't sound like a lot, but tea doesn't weigh very much. And I was actually going to just jump in and ask, like, I'm picturing just a giant-ass tea bag basically being added to, like, the secondary fermenter and just going with that.
That's basically what happened. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it was a huge hit for us. Maybe not for, like, all of Alberta. It was a massive hit for us, so I'm really happy to see it back.
Mm-hmm.
I had another question jumping in here. Eric was asking about the branding, which we already answered. I think we were answering it just as he commented, which is great. John asks, when he sees lactose in the beer, he thinks it's going to be really sour, but he's not getting the effect. Well, lactose is a sugar, and the sugar is usually added to counteract just how sour the beer is and to add a textural component in sours. Here it's being added, I would assume, just to counteract the bitterness, because if you steep any tea, it is going to add bitterness in the form of tannin and other things. It's just purely to counteract that and give the beer balance?
Yeah. So it might have been being confused with lactobacillus.
Also true.
Which is a souring agent.
Yep. Aaron?
Like, it seems like it's, like, bergamot is the, like...
You get the bergamot as, like, the dominant note?
Absolutely. Like, it's,
yeah.
Yeah, it's not just black tea. Like, it's not like an orange pico. It's like a specific... There's a specific kind of tea. That, like,
Earl Grey.
Right?
Yeah.
Earl Grey. Yeah.
It's right on the can, actually.
Oh, is it?
No, actually, sorry, it's not.
It's
It's black tea. I swear the original King's English said Earl Grey, but it's black tea.
Did you show the photo of the original can?
We did, but I can't see it right now.
I can't remember it myself. Now that you mentioned that, that's right.
There we go. Black tea.
No, it
is black tea
black
lemon.
tea,
Okay,
lemon.
I'm wrong. And here I thought I was just being sassy for no reason, but.
I thought it was Earl Grey too.
See, I thought it. Yeah, Nigel agrees. Nigel also thought it was Earl Grey, but no, it was always black tea lemon pale ale, which fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you taste it. You know.
Something else that was kind of interesting about this beer. Sorry if I'm interrupting.
No, not at all.
Was that the brewers had to sort of run a few experiments getting the pH right for the water in order to extract the tea in the way that they wanted to. So I was told that they had quite a few experiments with that, and it was just like another layer to the difficulty of making this beer.
Well, that ties really well into our last question before we jump on to the Rorschach. Are there certain styles of tea that go better with certain styles of beer? I mean, I have an opinion, but I'm not a brewmaster, so and I know neither are you. Like you're the sales director, but
certain styles of tea, you mean that would be used for like
different
in the
styles
same
of beer, yeah, or certain like we just don't make green tea beers because it doesn't work, sort of thing. Like I've had green tea generally as sours. I've never had like a green tea IPA. I think it would get lost underneath the hops.
Yeah, you obviously, anything with like a delicate profile, probably you don't want to overwhelm with hops. And anything that's sort of over the top, you don't want, to be overpowering in the beer either. So I'm sure you could find that balance with anything. Yeah, that's interesting.
Rupert,
Hmm.
is this beer? Are there like trace amounts of caffeine in it?
Probably actually. Never thought about that either. Yeah, I would think so. Probably not very much considering the amount of tea to liquid, but yeah, there's probably very, very small amount.
Are you picking up like a caffeine buzz there, Aaron?
No.
No?
No.
The camera
Just
starts
alcohol.
shaking.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the Rorschach. I got a question from Eric about the historicity of adding tea to beer. We'll cover that in a second. Let's jump in and talk about Rorschach, because one, awesome label. Two, I love that we're launching like a stout in, I was going to say, the bright, hot, sunny end of May, except it's flipping snowing out there.
I was
Yeah.
thinking about that today when I saw the weather. I was like, it's the perfect day to be tasting Rorschach.
Darn right it is.
And I mean, some people feel like Stout's any weather beer. I'm not sure if you agree with that.
Stout.
I would generally agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I really think I would struggle doing this every week if I wasn't willing to drink stout in July. In fact, I think our big Imperial Stout messy booze fest was like, I think that was August, tail end of August, or maybe that was barley wine. Yeah, I think it was the barley wine
in
tasting
August,
where you
yeah.
and I just like could not function at the end. I think that was, I swear that was like the tail end of August.
Like a car crash.
It was a car crash, and it happened in very slow motion. I think that tasting ran like 15 minutes long too. God, that was a mess. Okay, Rorschach. When did this come out? What year is the Rorschach?
So, Rorschach was the fall-winter seasonal of 2018.
Okay.
So again, yeah, that was around for 6 months. Winter seasonals tend to not be as popular as summer seasonals, but I think this one was one of my favorites. One of the earlier beers that I have fond memories of from Annex.
What was the winter seasonal right before King's English? I realize that is a really...
Postscript.
Oh, that was really good. Yeah, the Black Forest Porter. Yeah, that
That's
was
right.
great.
Yeah.
Forgot about that one.
Yeah, so I mean, I've always been a big fan of our winter seasonals, but for whatever reason, stouts and porters are never going to be as popular as crushable beers, I suppose.
I mean, when you go as esoteric as a black tea lemon pale ale and it's a huge seller, that's not such a bad thing, though. I mean...
No, yeah, of course. Yeah, a little bit about this beer. Roasted barley and chocolate malt. The chocolate malt's from Red Shed in Alberta. And you get some chocolate notes, obviously, from the chocolate malt, but that is... those notes are imparted on the malt from their roasting process. So it's very popular malt in Alberta to use for these styles of beer, and Red Shed have it dialed in.
So it's chocolate malt, and then you also added cocoa nibs on top, so it's double chocolate.
That's right. So the name is kind of misleading because we say it's a milk chocolate stout, but it's not milk chocolate. It's milk, chocolate stout. So the milk is from the lactose. The chocolate are actually like dark chocolate cocoa nibs. And in 2018, they came from Macquarie Chocolate, which was an Alberta-based company. I think now they're on the East Coast somewhere. And due to their process, you get some slight fruit notes, which actually come from the nibs.
Craig actually asked, what's the hop? And I initially was like, well, it's a stout. There shouldn't be a lot of hop, but I think it's because this came to market like so fresh. There is just the tiniest little bit of like a green hop thing way in the back. It smells like a British hop, like East Kent Goldings or Fuggles, but I'm just picking it up right at the top of the glass. I'm getting just the lightest, like, green spiciness. It could also be coming from the coconuts potentially, but I'm getting just something just a touch green.
I would assume that it comes from the nibs. And the funny thing about nibs and trying to recreate beers that require ingredients that aren't always available, they'll change from year to year. So, the nibs that we had in 2018 aren't going to be the same nibs that we had this year, and so you might pick up some different notes if you remember that 2018 edition. That yeah.
Mark really likes the espresso character. Hey, I'm not just draining these cans. There's still some left in both, and I have help with Aaron drinking too. But yes, I am. Jonas, will any of these be sold in local pubs? Probably not, unless you've got a really sweet deal with somebody who actually managed to get a keg of each of these as like a fun thing. But there's not really bars or anything right now, so I'm guessing this was can only.
The logistics of this project were pretty crazy. We had a lot of pallets of beer sitting around in the warehouse before we packaged these all up.
I'll bet you did.
We were waiting on the boxes to come from a printer in Vancouver, and then we were literally standing by the door waiting for the delivery driver to show up with them.
Do you make those delivery drivers go through the suicide ramp, which is why I, take all my beer deliveries through the front door? Thank you very much.
No, they came through the front door.
Sorry, for those of you who've never actually loaded up beer at Annex, if you don't have a truck that can use a pallet jack and you just want to take it through the back door, it's this ludicrously steep, very narrow asphalt ramp up to the back doors that I absolutely hate, especially in winter. I've never actually fallen off that thing, but yeah, I hate that ramp. I always take my beer through the front door like a jerk.
When I'm loading up my little vehicle for to do sales calls and stuff, and I'm loading up through that, I am so sure one day someone's just going to find me tipped over.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, like it's wild. I mean, I know why it is, because the building is like a good 5 feet higher than like the surrounding ground. I understand why it has to be that way, but yeah, that's not fun.
But yeah, no, we planned this very, very carefully to the point where we had just enough labels for just enough cans for the right amount of beer. The only thing, Rorschach's the only one that we got 0 kegs out of. I think there are a few kegs of Terrestrial that are just for the tap. All of this was basically just for the tap room.
Naturally.
No kegs really left the brewery at all. So we're hoping that the tap room can open up and start doing flights and stuff like that, and have some people enjoying the beers off tap.
Yeah, I'd be stoked for that. That'd be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you got the OG label up?
Yeah.
I'm curious about this.
There it is.
And I'll get it 10 seconds after everyone else does.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
And Craig's already saying, yeah, they need to bring back Postscript. That was great. Now, with this being such an absolutely massive hit, could you see this being something Annex would do again? Or is it just so damn much work?
I think, yeah, I was just going to say the headache of planning all of this. I don't know if we do bring it back, it might be celebrating the 7th anniversary or the 10th anniversary. Possibly. But I doubt we'll be doing this next year.
Yeah, no. Well, let's do it for the 8th. That way you get an 8-pack. That's a nice round number. No, that's really fun. I love this idea. Like, the second I saw it, I think I texted you within like 1 second of seeing this come out. I was like, oh God, yes, that's the most genius thing I've ever heard of. I'm so glad I don't have to do it. Like, we make up our mix packs just for like this weekly thing. That's 4 flats of beer. And that's, it's not like difficult. Making up the stupid little 1 ounce things for like the gin tasting, that's annoying. But even just doing the ones for like the beer tasting, it takes like the better part of 45 minutes to put all that together. Doing that on like an industrial scale, and then having like the custom boxes and new labeling for everything. This was a huge project.
It was kind of, I mean, I think all of us were really apprehensive about it, and then once it was all said and done, we ended up having a few beers and just kind of putting the boxes together. So far, we've only had one come back with, I think it was 2 King's English in it, So I'm not sure which beer was missing from it. So far, we've only made
That's a
one
higher
mistake.
success rate for accuracy than I have achieved on these. I've definitely screwed up more than just one mix four in doing the beer tastings over the last bit. So
Yeah. So I don't know. It was pretty fun. It was kind of like as close to a team building exercise as you can do these days. So.
that's awesome. So this is a 4th anniversary release for Annex. Let's talk a little bit of Annex history. Can you give us kind of the early, first days of Annex and the one core beer that doesn't exist anymore and all the rest of the heartbreaking tales of early Annex up to present day?
Yeah. So I should start by saying that the last time you had me on, I think I'd been working for Annex for about 3 weeks or so.
I don't even
so
know
I
if it had
think-
been that long. I think it was like,
Yeah.
hi, Kyle, I'm your new sales rep. Hey, Rupert, guess what? You're booked in for next week. Have a nice day.
It's definitely how it felt. And you guys stumped me. Somebody had a question of why Annex is called Annex. And it was such a simple question. I didn't have the answer. So I raced into work the next day and found out, and hopefully this is a better answer. But Andrew Bullied and Erica Gorman, the owners, had been going to breweries in the Pacific Northwest, visiting that area quite a bit, and found that all the breweries were sort of in these more industrial areas, off the beaten path, and people were sort of making it a destination, going out of their way to seek out quality craft beer. And they thought that they could bring that concept to Calgary.
I would
so we're
argue that
talking-
they've been incredibly successful with that. I mean, there's really is the brewery district. I mean, you could go from, let's just say establishment because it's one door over, start establishment, go to Annex, hit Uncommon, and be a cabin on a bicycle in 5 minutes if you're really taking your time. And then there's
Yeah.
the distillery down the road, and 88's just around the corner, and
Bourne,
Dandy's just
Colorado
around
is
the
right
corner
across
from
the
that.
street.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
like-
forgot Bourne, Colorado. Bandit
Yeah.
Peak's kind of around the corner there. Yeah, like it's all much of a muchness. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, like it's just really blown up. So I'm talking. This must have been around 2014 that they were doing this and wanting to bring this idea to Calgary, and sort of just build the Annex, basically this destination. They also wanted to have this business model where it was similar to if you want good meat, you go to a butcher. If you want good vegetables, you go to the farmer. You go to the source. And so if you wanted good beer, you'd go to the brewery. So originally, Annex beers were only available in bottles. I believe there was a 2-head bottle filler that had the capacity of, I think it was something like 36 cases a day.
And they were really different shaped bottles. They weren't just your standard 650 ml bomber. They were a really different bottle.
Yeah. And that was the only way to get Annex beer. And at the time, I think it was really cool, different. Calgary had never seen anything like it. But obviously, that wasn't sustainable because of how popular craft beer became. And so it's grown into, this crazy brewery that is growing and growing and growing. We've got a couple photos, I think, of opening night, which must have been 2017.
Aaron's nodding, which is a good sign.
Yep, pop these up. So
Aaron's not had a good night for some reason. I don't know what's going on, but it seems to be it's all good. But Aaron's done more like tearing his headphones in half accidentally and sprinting out of the room chasing a music box and
Yes.
all sorts of things so far tonight. It's been a lot of... honestly, the big show's been behind the scenes tonight. It's been a lot of fun. I've had more fun watching than anyone else has. It's great.
well, thanks for troubleshooting all of that, Aaron.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, and so Annex has sort of grown to this this much bigger thing. We've taken over. I think there was an expansion in 2019 and took over the bay. This is what we look like now. On the right hand side there, is there's Little Empire in there, so you can get some cheeseburgers and drink beer. On the left-hand side, out of frame, we've taken over that side. There's a warehouse and offices. So, you know, Annex is really growing, and I think a big part of that is just due to fans like you, Kyle, and really supporting us in other parts of the province and getting our name out. So we really appreciate that.
We actually got a really great question that I think will be for me and you and Aaron. What was everyone's first Annex beer? I'm trying to think. I want to say it was Meats and Bounds.
That was mine, for sure, 100%. I remember Andrew coming to see me, yeah.
Yeah. Aaron, first Annex beer, was it maybe when we first started doing this? Or is it before that?
I would imagine it was before that, but I would have no idea. I'd have to see the list. I'll go look.
That's fair. But yeah, mine was Meats and Bounds out of those Crazy Bombers. And to be honest, I remember having it and be like, yeah. I will say still of the core range, Meats and Bounds, my least favorite. Forward Progress is just like so close to my heart. Good Authority, I learned so much about beer. I really like Force Majeure. Meats and Bounds, we sell it in our store.
Meats and Bounds is a strange one. I remember liking it so much because I think at the time, again, there was not very much to compare it to. So the only two core beers that they started with were Meats and Bounds, the XPA, and Bitter Division. And Bitter Division.
I remember Bitter Division, yeah.
So that one's no longer around. I mean, maybe that will come back one day.
That'd be fun. Was it actually on the referendum?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
I'm also a little sad that didn't win because it would have been nice to have one of the first two in there.
Yeah, and then I mean XPA. So XPA is still in our portfolio. It's hanging on. There are huge fans of it, but very few of them. But I don't know. I think it's got a special place in Annex's heart. But I think as a brewery, we are very aware that tastes change, and you know, we're trying to be as fluid as possible. So nothing's permanent. Right now, I would say the only thing that probably is permanent is Forward Progress, because that beer is not going anywhere.
Sorry, it's Forward Progress? Yeah, that beer is just...
Yeah.
You know what? Every so often you get just a recipe absolutely dialed in perfect, and it doesn't sound like it doesn't look or sound like it's just labeled as a pale ale. I think it's like a Northwest pale ale, and it seems like North American pale, yeah. And it doesn't sound like it's gonna be the most interesting thing on the shelf, and then you open a can, it's like, yes, this tastes like home. This tastes like perfection to me. It's just one of those beers that's always gonna be a touchstone for me, and I respect the brewing behind it so much because it's such a simple idea carried to the absolute best point it could be. I really love that.
Yeah, I think and again, like that beer has changed over the years ever so slightly. But though that's just like the brewers trying to dial it in, get it exactly where they want it to be. We've started working with a company called Draft Labs, who come in and basically they are responsible for our quality, our consistency. They test things like our yeast health, things like that. And those guys have helped us so much figuring out what did we do right with this batch? What did we do right with that one? And just like really, really dialing it in. So I think that beer is probably the best it's ever been now. And a lot of thanks go to that company, Draft Labs.
Well, I think Eric actually comes in with a comment that we should give it another chance. That gives me an idea for like an overlooked darling of breweries we love sort of tasting, because everybody when we talk about Annex talks about everything except Meats and Bounds. When everybody talks about Cabin, it's like, oh, super saturation and whatever 5 seasonals they got out this week. Nobody talks about Sunshine Rain, which I actually think is their best beer. I think there's some legs for an overlooked darlings tasting, and I think Meats and Bounds would be like top of the list there, because it's a better beer than I give it credit for. It's not that I don't like it, it's just that I love Forward Progress so damn much.
You know, it's a solid beer. but I'm guilty of it too. I don't reach for it as much as I should, because Forward Progress is right next to it. So.
Oh, all right, everyone, check their watches. It's 33 minutes past the hour. That was the first time we got a question about Labour Party, because let's be fair, Labour Party was an absolutely goddamn massive hit down here. We sold that, like, we basically sold nothing else when it was on the shelf. It went nuts for us. I would be remiss if I didn't ask on this day of bringing back past NX seasonals and celebrating it, are we going to see Labour Party again?
I don't want to guarantee anything, but I can guarantee that you will see that beer again.
Cool. Let's all move on to Mackinaw Peaches on that totally not guaranteed guarantee. All right, so this is the one that everyone loved so much that it led the polling.
Yeah, I think this was the clear winner.
Question. Eric, that's a really interesting question you've got there. I want to let Rupert get to his introduction for Mackinaw Peaches, but that's a great question. I do want to get to that. Please, sorry, go ahead. I went ooh because it was a really interesting question, but let's move on.
So yeah, Mackinaw Peaches. I think if memory serves me correctly, this was probably my introduction to Annex's small batch program. They've made this beer every year since 2017, so it's the most repeated small batch beer. It always comes out in September, obviously, except for this time. And this was a beer that I think the brewery learned a lot from. And that first batch was a labor of love. I think it was a good few days in a row that I think it was probably Andrew and a couple other staff members were pitting peaches in the back. Literally just that's all they were doing for days. And learned that maybe that's not the best way to be able to grow as a brewery. Yeah, so every year this beer changes ever so slightly due to the fruit that's available. So we're using a fruit puree and obviously lactobacillus to sour this because of the sweetness of the peaches. This is what we call a double sour, in that both turns get soured with the lactobacillus. Almost every sour we make would only get soured once.
Do you want to walk us through that process a little bit more? This is the first time I've ever heard of a double turned or double sour.
So our brew house is 10 hex. And so most batches we will do 20 hex, if not 30 hex. My understanding of it, as I'm not a brewer, is they will make the mash and make the wort, sour the wort, and then it goes into the fermenter. So that would be 10 hex, that would be one turn. And then they just do that over again.
Gotcha.
Would be the second turn.
But they for most sours they only do one of the hex sour. The other is kept without the souring component. This they do both.
Right. That's right.
Beautiful.
So the entire batch is soured then.
Chris asks, how many people work at Annex, not including your front of house staff? Because obviously that's very different with COVID. But who's like between sales and brewers and admin team? What's the back house at Annex look like?
Let's see here. So we've got a couple guys on the packaging side of things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 brewers, production manager. We have our 2 owners, our marketing guy, Quinn, our new sales rep, Graham, who just started with us on Monday, CFO, and we are about to bring on a couple more accountants. So
beautiful.
Yeah, it's growing. It's grown even since I started 6 months ago. So
which is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. It's wild. And that's not including front of house. That's not including our taproom manager and everybody else.
Devin jumps in with a weird answer. He says, Good Authority was my first Annex beer. No, it wasn't. I know it wasn't for a fact, Devin.
That might have been mine, though. I was
think Good Authority was your first Annex beer?
Which is probably like way in the middle as far as the timeline goes. But,
yeah.
I think that was probably my first one, too.
That's fair.
Which is a good introduction. It's a great beer.
Fair enough.
Good Authority is our newest core beer. But I'm trying to think. I guess that would still be 2019?
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Eric, the question that I oohed at, who's 88's Overlooked Darling? And I oohed because it's a great question because y'all fucked up. It was the hologram wheat, which was a hopped wheat, and that beer was absolutely delicious, and I loved it like a child, and no one bought it, and now it's not a core beer anymore. Congratulations, everyone. But no, to me, it reminded me of like Three Floyd's Gumball Head. It reminded me really favorably of like some of the other really hoppy wheats, like New Glarus's, not Spotted Cow. But New Glarus has a hoppy wheat, can't remember what it's called, but it reminded me so favorably of so many really great hoppy wheats, and it wasn't a white IPA, and it wasn't a New England pale. It was a proper hoppy wheat, and that beer ruled, but nobody bought it, and now it's been supplanted in the core line with Hammer Pants, which I do enjoy, but I really loved Hologram. What's the Overlooked Darling in 88 now? I don't know if there is one. Maybe Duotang Sour? I only will say because it doesn't sell as well as the rest of the core line. But I would have said Hologram. That was a really easy answer once.
Duotang was a powerhouse when it came out. It was sort of like as far as I can recall, the only readily available dry hop sour in Alberta made. That comes
Blind
to
Man's
mind.
was out before that. They're the small cans, and they're like experimental series.
I should say Calgary.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember trying to get it on tap, and obviously when you're looking at kegs versus cans are priced for retail, and kegs are priced for on-premise. And it was just always way too expensive to bring in, and then Duotang was, the first sour that we could bring in at the ship.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark and Lorraine's first Annex beer was King's English. Well, welcome to the group. We love having you here because it's been a lot of fun. Honestly, King's English was probably my first tea beer, and like I loved it. So I was so scared of it when it first came. I was like, oh man, Annex, what are you doing, guys? And now it's like, no, it's safe as anything. I could drink that all day.
The funny thing about that beer, and you're right to be scared of tea beers, but Annex has a way of staying true to beers that taste like beers. I don't think Annex is ever going to make something that is, a slushy beer or just, not considered a beer, full of, cookies and ice cream and all kinds of things.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had a pastry stout from Annex or a quadruple IPA aged in cognac barrels with peanut butter. No, I've never had something like that. I mean, you guys do have your barrel program, you make wild ales, certainly, but no, I've never had a beer where it was like, I've had beers I haven't loved. Full disclosure, I don't like black IPA. I don't care who makes it. Xenosign is like my least favorite Annex beer of all time. Not because it wasn't a great black IPA. It could have been the greatest black IPA in the world. Doesn't taste like anything to me. But no, I don't. You're right. I don't think that Annex really goes. You don't really follow the trends like other breweries do so much. You kind of just do your own thing. And what are we doing this year? Well, last summer was like the summer of everyone and their mom made a pineapple beer, and you guys did too, certainly. But no, it was like we're doing a tea thing. I don't really respect that. That's actually interesting.
I think we talked a little bit about that last time I was on, but the interesting thing with trends is that trends are sometimes dictated by what's available. A lot of these local breweries, and you could probably lump all of Alberta into it, use a lot of the same suppliers. So, if pineapple is what's cheap and what's available, you're going to see a lot of pineapple beers that year.
We had a running joke around the store that was the summer that one of your suppliers had a super sale on pineapple concentrate.
That's exactly it. You know, it's maybe it's the suppliers that dictate the trends and not what's happening in the States or in other in other craft scenes.
That certainly does make sense. Also, I can see why people love this. I'd rather have those two. Maybe it's just not peaches for me, but I love King's English. The Rorschach's exactly what I felt like on kind of a surprisingly cold May evening. Mackinaw peaches leave me a little flat compared to the other two. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about what we've got coming up for upcoming attractions. Oh, I should ask though, just because the Mackinaw peaches, you're like best-selling every fall seasonal, it's still coming back in fall, right?
That's a good question. I don't know.
All right, fair enough. Let's. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. We have the original Mackinaw peach can as well. If we wanted to show that.
Have
Sure,
we shown that?
Oh yeah, the peach.
Yeah.
Right, here it is. There it is. Pretty. I think it most closely resembles the current marketing trend.
So yeah, I guess this would have been last year's. And this was a beer that once was only available in kegs. So maybe this is the only other label, considering that it's been out every year. That's funny.
Out every year, but only canned twice to this point.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. Okay, so let's talk about what we have coming up. So just do bear with us for a second here, Rupert.
Of course.
Coming up on this Friday night, we have our first gin tasting of the year. I'm not saying absolutely guaranteed that there will be a second one, but it is really bloody likely there will be, because summer is long and hot and hellish, and I just really like gin. So, and also I had way more gins I wanted to talk about than just these four, so keeping myself to just this is going to be really hard. First off, from Last Best Brewing and Distilling, we have Adam Sagan joining us. He is doing two of his three gins, the Savage Love, which is his overproof at 47% cocktail gin. This is a gin that's big and junipery and punchy and really does demand like vermouth or tonic or something, you know, big and powerful. Go ahead and try and drown this gin. You're going to struggle with it. We're going to do that right next to his softest gin. Honestly, the one that I struggle to sell because it's designed to be gin and juice. It's made with a ton of both navel and mandarin oranges. It's very delicate. It's very juicy. It's very soft. This is a gin that could disappear very easily in just about anything. I actually would like this as like gin and lemonade. I like this. It's just very difficult to work with, and I can't wait to talk about how to work with it. From Sheringham, a gin that is very quietly climbed our sales charts. We brought it in. We actually brought it in because with the gin, we really wanted to sell their Aquavit, because I personally absolutely adore Aquavit. The Aquavit, as no one here will be surprised, didn't sell. But the gin has absolutely taken off for us. We now sell a second gin from these folks called Kazuki Gin. This is just a really nice kind of saline, a bit of a botanical gin, but not that bitter. It's certainly not as big as Savage Love. This is kind of a elevated version of like a Tanqueray or Bombay Sapphire in the sense that it's a bit of an all-rounder. But I really respect the actual distilling behind this. It's very well made. Finally, out of Montana, Whistling Andy's Cucumber Gin. Of course, everybody and their mum these days makes a cucumber gin. Hendrick started the trend. The folks at Burwood make a really excellent cucumber gin. But I wanted to do the Whistling Andy just because I really like how much cucumber is in this. Like a lot of cucumber gins, the cucumber is a component. Here it's just the dominant character, and I think that's fun. So you get the 4 1-ounce samples. Yours will be much more nicely packaged than shadily taped together with this piece of electrical tape. Yours will come in a box. And then you also get 2 absolutely adorable tiny cans of tonic water. Tasting kits are $25 for that. 1 week from tonight, it's a double Adam feature. We had Adam Sagan from Last Best. Now we'll have Adam Nackbauer from Snake Lake joining us next week on Wednesday for kind of a State of Snake Lake 2021. We, of course, did really well with their Brighter Horizons last year, which was a lot of fun. You all know how much I love the Mrs. Dingwall Sangria Sour. So we're going to do 2 cores and 2 seasonals from Snake Lake here. We're going to do the Kinnevik Pills, which is a beer that, again, back to overlooked seasonals or overlooked core beers. I think for us at least, the Kennebec has deserved more respect. Their Sidewinder IPA, which is their core IPA, and then their West Coast Pale, the very aptly named Not a Hazy Pale, and then the beer that is kind of replacing the Brighter Horizons New England Pale, the Prairie Dreams New England Pale Ale. So that is coming up Wednesday next week. Wine tasting next week, I actually don't have any of the bottles here, so I can't talk about, but it will be a Spanish theme, including a brand new winery that Devin and I have been expecting for about 4 months. It's been delayed shipping wise with COVID, so this is a product we thought we were going to have in February, but don't have until it shows up Friday, so we still don't have it now. All right, so we have tons of comments for that. We'll get to those, but why don't you introduce us to the one that I'm really excited for, Terrestrial Magnetism.
So you've never had this beer?
I actually haven't. No, I don't know how I missed it. I really don't know how, because it sounds like exactly my thing.
Yeah, this beer is, I think, unlike anything else I've had from Alberta. It was originally a small batch beer. It was a collab with Blind Man in 2019.
Okay.
At that time, both Blind Man and Annex were known as big IPA breweries. I guess we still are.
I think that's fair, yes.
Yeah, it only made sense that we put together this crazy dry hopped wild New England IPA. So we call it a Conically dry hopped, Conically hopped. And that just means that it was dry hopped in the conical fermenter instead of the kettle. Now, this is where things kind of get crazy. It was dry hopped every day for the first 7 days of fermentation. And then once again, one giant dry hop after fermentation. So in total, 50 kilos of hops went into this batch.
Good God, that's so many hops. That's a king's ransom of hops.
That is honestly as much as some breweries use in a year. And I was blown away when I learned about that. So yeah, just completely ridiculous amount of hops. It's dry hopped with Galaxy, Cryo Citra, Simcoe, and Cryo Eldorado. So
the cryo prefix meaning.
Yeah, so that's basically like to dumb it down as like how it was explained to me, is that it's like a concentrated pellet basically. So more bang for your buck basically.
Okay, my God, I am sad I missed this the first time around because, God damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
So obviously, huge aroma due to all the dry hopping, and those hops will lend to a big citrus aroma, a little bit of berry from the Simcoe, and obviously like tropical aroma as well. I just found myself pouring myself more of this one than any of the others.
Yeah,
well.
I just moved the can like as far from Aaron as I could, so that this is the rest of the can is mine. I am so sad I missed out on this. This is
I could
is
smell
stunning.
This. I wish, I wish my house smelled like this all the time.
I mean, you can start to grow up. I mean.
So it's 6.7%.
God, it's not even that high.
Yeah, which for Annex isn't anything too crazy. But yeah, this beer is just something else. It was really interesting tasting this throughout its life in the fermenters and then in the bright tank. It changed so much, and it's just how it's ended up is just incredible.
I know why this isn't a core beer. It's that, Annex likes staying in business, and this is like prohibitively expensive to make. But God, I'd pay I'd pay $22.95 a 4-pack for that if it was always available. I love it so much. You'd probably still be losing money at that price, but I don't care. It's just glorious.
Yeah.
How did I miss this? This is just shocking to me. I feel bad that I missed this. So you said you had kegs that were taproom only. How flexible are you on that taproom only thing?
So yeah, there's the other aspect of this beer is that we call it a Wild New England IPA, and that just means that we were using some Sactois type yeast, and I say type yeast because I think it was actually called Cerberus yeast.
Yeah, we discussed this with, I want to say the Vancouver tiny beer, the Strathcona versus Superflux tasting, yes, because one of those was a Sactois beer. Thank you. So people are generally familiar with the term, so by which I mean I'm familiar with the term from that tasting from a few weeks ago. So if you didn't tune in, tough rocks. But no, this is brilliant. No, absolutely brilliant. Question from Eric. The new batch, this version of Terrestrial Magnetism, not a collab. You didn't have someone from Blind Men down to help out with it, so this is all Annex all the time.
Yeah. Unfortunately, collabs these days aren't as possible as they have been. We really wish that we could have had them down and have a great brew day and hang out, and unfortunately that's just not possible right now.
Also, Justin, apparently the Dimed Out had a removable sticker on the back of the label. Are there hidden treasures with the... No? Nothing hiding behind the label on this one?
No, we put all our efforts into the box and everything else in this project. So unfortunately, no. But yeah, Dimed Out did have a removable sticker. Underneath that sticker, there was a series of different stupid sayings that we say around the brewery, or just, we call them annexisms. Some things like call your mother, you're doing all right. My favorite, I think, was I think it was something along the lines of like, my favorite beer of all time, 3.5 out of 5. Which is,
oh God,
we read far too many Untapped reviews.
I was definitely part of the problem once upon a time. I'm a very well reformed beer rater, and I think my beer rating career ended before Annex opened, mercifully, because I was a rate beer guy from way back, which I realized about halfway through our last beer tasting when we had Patrick Smith on. I realized about halfway through that I knew this guy from the rate beer days. I was like, I can't say anything on camera. Speaking of not saying anything on camera, the most liked comment on our thread so far is "work him for a keg." Well, no, Craig. All of the bribery and horrible, shady stuff happens off camera. That'll happen after. Don't worry. I'm gonna beg.
Craig,
I'll get down on my hands and knees.
You're gonna have to visit us in Calgary.
Well, we'll just see how many zeros I add onto the check. Well, we might see what we can do. I am obviously not going to rank them tonight because we have a guest in the brewery. I don't think anyone would be surprised what my number 1 would be, however. Rankings coming in, Deanne, right there. Deanne, breaking my heart putting the Terrestrial Magnetism dead last. Yeah.
It's not for everyone.
It's not it. It's not for everybody. It's for IPA diehards.
We knew that this this project, this 4-pack, was gonna upset some people because not everybody likes IPAs, not everybody likes sours. I thought that maybe there'd be those people that kind of share with their friends and trade for what they like and stuff like that. There have even been some stores that have torn the packaging apart and are selling them individually.
That takes all the fun out of it. Those soulless dicks.
So, if you really wanted to track down some Mackinaw and only Mackinaw, you're able to do so.
Okay, now I'm kind of thinking I just want to about a flat of terrestrial magnetism, but fine. I'll continue to criticize those people, despite the fact that I would totally just buy a flat of that. And Deanne, I would happily trade you a flat of King's English for a flat of terrestrial. That is a thing. We would each have to buy a flat of. It's not a terrible idea, actually. We each buy a flat of. Never mind. Questions and things that have come up over the time here. Actually, this was something you mentioned. I don't know if it was on camera or before, but there's been less seasonals than late recently because of the fact you've had all your fermenters tied up making the refreshment referendum here. So we only really had like idle hands, and we've had a couple of barrel releases, which means we're kind of very due for some small batch stuff here. Can you maybe give us a couple of hints without saying too much about what we might expect for the summer from Annex?
So yeah, in our schedule right now, there's a sour. Obviously, that's can't be summer without Annex putting out a sour. We're also putting out a we're calling it a San Diego style IPA. So
Stone style West Coast, super pale.
So yeah, my understanding of it is the San Diego part basically describing the clarity of it. Like West Coast is obviously a bit more clear, but this is going to be something that's even more so. So I'm very excited for that, and excited to sort of learn about a style that a style within a style, I suppose.
You can put us down for all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're pretty excited, and we've got some fun stuff coming down the road.
More little boxes. I also liked the little box. The little box is fun. No, I know that. No, it's not.
Boxes. No more boxes.
No more boxes. It was hell. Oh, actually, speaking of,
it wasn't that bad. There were a few cardboard cuts, but that's about it.
Actually, I wanted to talk about this. I was thinking about it earlier today, and then I forgot because I don't take notes of the beer tastings because I'm an idiot. You guys are doing a PackTech recycling program, and we are on the list to get on with that because I have way more PackTech than I can ever use in my life because we do take them back. Do you want to talk a little bit about the PackTech recycling program that Annex is kind of spearheading here? We will have it down here at some point, literally. You're out of bins, basically, as I understand it.
So yeah, I mean, it's a complicated. I mean, obviously, we knew that this was something that had to happen. One of our guiding principles is based on sustainability, and the fact that PackTechs aren't recyclable is shocking. And as a community, I think we kind of owe it to everyone that we sort of do what we can about it. So yeah, thank you very much for being interested in it, and we're going to get you that bin right away. But I believe it all goes through a company in the US, and they didn't want to transport just small amounts, so we kind of had to gauge like the interest, build it up, and obviously it's going to be truckloads getting recycled now, thanks to everybody involved.
That's incredible. Yeah, I'm really stoked about that because PackTechs are an interesting plastic. They're vastly better than 6-pack rings or 4-pack rings. I hate rings with a passion. But yeah, they're an odd type of plastic that's not recyclable in a lot of municipal facilities. So it's nice to have an option that's, not just putting them in the bin or returning them to the liquor store. Or other people are now going to be able to return them to the liquor store, but I'll be able to do something with them. Yes, I like
exactly,
that.
Exactly, yeah.
Justin asks, how long is the mix pack going to be available? Based on how much I've got in my fridge, not very damn long. I would be absolutely shocked if I still had any refreshment referendum by this point next week. We took quite a bit, understanding that we were going to have 4 flats for this. Thank you again for giving us as much as you did. But yeah, I think we're going to be out pretty darn shortly here. Because even beyond the ones that we sold for the beer tasting, I think we've sold well over half of what it was left. I think it's the shelf plus 2 or 3 4-packs, and the shelf fits 9, so that's like 10 or 11 or 12, and we're selling 3 or 4 a day. Yeah, it's not going to stick around. It's going to be gone very quickly. So
that's awesome to hear. Yeah, it's definitely flying off shelves. I think we've got even in the tap room, I think there's only a handful of flats left. you know, and people aren't necessarily running to tap rooms these days, but this is something that's been bringing people in, which we're thankful for.
You got to innovate. I mean, you got to find something to bring people in. It's been it's been an interesting old year, which is why I'm doing one of these every Wednesday night. And hey, I love it. I'm having a great time. I get to drink this, and I get to be broadly paid for drinking this. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Rupert. I'll ask you to stick around so I can beg you for that keg. And to everyone else, thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to Aaron as always. Have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday night, and we will talk to all of you on Friday. And if we don't see you then we will see you Wednesday next week. Thank you all so much for watching, and good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Awesome.